Fendikevich. I lead US go-to-market for Upstage AI. With me, I have Gabe Mayer, founder and CEO of Tricura Insurance Group. Thanks, Gabe, for joining me.
Of course, glad to be here.
Yeah, can't wait to dive right in. So what is your long-term vision for leveraging data science to fundamentally change how risk is assessed in the insurance industry?
I think that there's a tremendous amount of opportunity for us in multiple facets of the continuum of risk and how we approach the underwriting of the exposures, how we approach the mitigation of risk proactively, and ultimately how we resolve claims on the back end and use all of that data to help inform those decisions.
So it sounds like you're taking a pretty innovative approach to assessing risk.
Yeah, I think that for a lot of the large carriers, the more traditional approach misses a lot of the nuance in how these businesses are being run and the implication that that has on the exposure. So we try to take a really deep and nuanced view on that. We've built some technology around how we approach those kinds of things to better inform our human underwriting team in the way that they approach the process of segmenting, pricing, and structuring the coverage that we offer.
Neat. In your view, what is the single biggest misconception that legacy insurance carriers have about incorporating AI into their core operations?
I think in our space, a lot of the legacy carriers may miss the ways in which the day-to-day operations of these businesses impact the people on the ground that are helping to run them. What I mean by that is there are all kinds of competing priorities that exist in the day-to-day function of senior living communities, which is the vertical that we serve, and making sure that the approach that we're taking to every element of how we run our business, the underwriting of the coverage, the coverage terms, the approach to risk mitigation, the approach to claims, making sure that those things are in tune with the limitations, in some cases the resource limitations that exist and the competing priorities that exist in that underlying business is something that I think we really try to do better than others, and I think what sets us apart.
I think to add to that, another misconception is that AI is viewed as another piece of software that you can just plug in, whereas it requires rethinking how a piece of work touches each person inside a company. What are the areas that AI can automate away, the boring stuff like the manual data entry, and where is human expertise really needed? So it really requires leadership to think about, for example, when a submission comes in, how to reallocate people and where AI is the most impactful. And it sounds like you're really spearheading this at Tricura.
Yeah, we really try to think critically about every minute step in the process. To your point, there are many things that occur during the course of how we approach a risk that are not necessarily deeply levered to things that are human, that require human intelligence. They're rote tasks that need to get done. They're really important to get done, but they're not necessarily high-value decisions. And other elements that really do require a deep domain expertise, where there are elements of intuition that are guiding decisioning, where there's a tremendous amount of value in having human input and having human decisioning guide the direction. So we try to be really specific about where in the process we work to implement AI and where in the process we lean harder on human intuition.
And this is where the myth of AI is going to wipe out all jobs can be debunked, because the technology really is a partnership between AI and humans. The human judgment, the human intuition that has to still weed through the complexity, make the judgment calls. And as you mentioned, AI can just do the annoying parts that nobody wants to do.
Absolutely, and I think it also opens up tremendous amounts of additional opportunity for those who are a part of our team, in the sense that there were areas of the market that we would not be able to cover just because of resource limitations or because of the challenges to scale that today are available to that team. And I think that is in large part due to the implementation of the technology and the advancements that we've seen and helped to facilitate.
Speaking of other areas where you're able to scale, what are other insurance sectors or product lines you believe are the ripest for disruption with AI?
I think that really all segments of the insurance space have opportunities for innovation, but more specifically, I think areas that are niche, that are either product specific or industry verticalized and require a deep domain understanding, are areas that oftentimes are left by the wayside as it relates to generalized advancements in technology, but where there are really significant opportunities for the generation of alpha in the underwriting process and really all elements of managing a risk pool. So we're in a particular niche. Senior living liability exposure is what we choose to focus on, but there are many other areas of the market that are industry specific, require deep domain expertise, and are presently not being addressed with a heavy degree of technology advancement.
And that deep domain expertise, again, falls on the human side. And it's just decades and decades of on-the-ground experience that AI can't replicate at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. I think it really, to create a partnership in which the years of experience and what we call intuition, the ability for a human person to look at a situation and based on all of those years of experience and prior examples, scenarios that they've faced, be able to make an informed decision, to be able to marry that and create synergy between that and AI decisioning that can help optimize those rote or repeatable tasks, I think could be really powerful in many arenas.
So right now, AI is really powerful in those repeatable tasks, as you mentioned, and the industry moves so fast. In 3 to 5 years, how do you think an underwriter's day-to-day might change with AI?
I think that there is a significant degree of manual labor that goes into the extraction of data, just purely in the extraction of unstructured information from incoming sources, whether those are brokers or other third-party sources of data that are really important in the underwriting decisioning process, but are really time-consuming to help collect and make order out of. And I think to a large degree, those kinds of things will be automated and made more streamlined by AI. And I think that those who are not able to get at a deeper level of understanding because of that will have a hard time competing in the marketplace against those that do.
The insurance industry is often seen as slow to adopt new technology. What advice would you give to other insurance leaders considering a deep integration of AI or ML?
I think just to get started, to a large degree, these kinds of technologies are really not super scary when you get into the weeds and just try things. We try to keep an open mind about the new things that we're working through and making sure that people are not afraid to fail. There are all kinds of opportunities that underwriting units have to test theory, and not necessarily to test the depth of the river with both feet. You don't have to go out and apply a new technology to the entirety of your book from the outset. But I think just creating micro scenarios in which people can test what they believe will be accretive to overall processes and then roll them into the broader picture of how the organization is approaching that particular task, I think is really important for underwriting units and for insurance companies in general.
Going back to what I mentioned about just rethinking the workflow and how a piece of work touches each person or each department, I agree. It shouldn't require a $1 million plus upfront investment and huge data migration and, let's scrap everything we have. For enterprises, it's just not realistic. But finding just one small way by looking at the workflow, what can we automate? Let's not try to eat the entire whale in one sitting, but take one piece, automate that, implement AI in the smallest way possible, measure the impact, and then move on to the next rather than redoing everything. That is the most sustainable way, especially again because the space moves so fast and new capabilities come on the market every day. So what might not have worked previously might work 6 months, 1 year down the line, but just to take that iterative approach. It's not one big software buy, you implement it and then you forget about it. It's really just one piece at a time, again, as technology moves super fast.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. And I think that as organizations think about risk, to a large degree, the degree of apprehension that organizations have with implementing some of this new technology is that either it won't work or it won't work as well as what they have in their legacy systems. But there's also, in my limited view, a tremendous amount of risk in not trying these new things. And I think that the amount of alpha that organizations can realize in keeping an open mind is definitely worth the ambiguity in how that will play in practice.
And speaking of rethinking the workflow, insurance is such a relationship-heavy industry. How do you see the relationships between brokers, carriers or MGAs, underwriters, insurtechs evolving over the next few years with AI?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that there's a lot of opportunity for us to deepen human-to-human connection with brokers, leveraging AI. And what I mean by that is what classically would have bogged down our underwriting team, just in the amount of time that they would have to spend on certain tasks, would preclude them from being able to really be present with people, to human connections, things like being present at conferences, at dinners, being able to create genuine connection with people at meetings or calls that they would otherwise be able to make. In a traditional sense, many underwriting units end up getting really bogged down by the rote and repeatable tasks. So I think that freeing up that time can really allow for the people within our team to create those genuine connections. And I think that's super critical to the space. As to your point, the business is really done and it founded on trust. And in order to build trust, you have to spend time with people. You have to be able to foster those connections. We value the relationships that we have with our retail distribution network extremely deeply. And being able to spend the time and the resources that we'd like to on those relationships to us is really important.
Tricura implemented Upstage to review applications under 10 minutes, down from 30 minutes to an hour. How does that help the relationship with the broker if an underwriter is able to review an application that a broker sends much faster?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of information that comes across in the submission process on human-to-human interaction and not necessarily in the PDFs or in the documents that are received in a submission. So as an example, when we're having conversations with our retail distribution network, let's say we're having a conversation with a broker, and there is a certain tone that we're able to kind of understand and pick up on about what a client is looking for, what is important to them. Is it pricing? Is it the structure of coverage? Is it the rating of that policy? Is it the risk mitigation that we're offering on the back end? And to really be able to understand what is important to that organization and to deliver on that is something that is not always present in the documents or the structured data, even unstructured data that comes across. So I think it's really important to be having those conversations. The presence of Upstage and the partnership that we've built allows for our underwriting team to devote the time that they would have otherwise spent on the extraction and organization of that data to spend that with the brokers, really understanding what they're looking for, what is important to the client, and then to be able to deliver on that for them expediently.
And how does that help you grow your book of business?
Just the amount of time that we're able to spend in building those relationships means an increase in the volume of submissions that we're seeing from the marketplace. It also means our ability to better convert those opportunities. If we can understand what they're looking for and we can deliver on that in a way that's it creates a better experience for the broker and for the client, we're likely to land more of those opportunities and be able to grow our business. So yeah, I would say for sure in those areas, the presence of the technology has been really helpful for us. And then I think further, being able to free up additional time to think about new ways that we can serve the market outside of what we do presently today has really been impactful in our ability to grow, to serve the market.
Beyond the data parsing and data extraction, how else do you see AI helping you grow your business?
I think there are a lot of subsequent next steps outside of the extraction of the data itself where there's opportunity for us to be able to leverage AI to be more efficient. As an example, the triage of submissions, having an understanding for what has come in and how it meets our desired underwriting box, things including the details about that particular exposure, where it's come from, and to what degree that is aligned to what we're looking for in terms of the opportunities that we'd like to push forward with aggressively to land within the book of coverage that we offer, is something that I think there's a lot of opportunity in the optimization of that triaging process. So the decisioning on that information and the prioritization is a piece that I think is ripe for opportunity.
And when you search for technology vendors like Upstage in order to accomplish all of these goals, what do you typically look for? Is it the product side, the speed, the ease of usability?
All of those things are important for sure. If we're going to be using a system like Upstage, the accuracy is really important, speed, the expediency to deliver on what was promised, all of those things matter. But I think that what's been really unique and helpful in working with the Upstage team is their ability to listen and to hear what problems we face that are unique to our business, and then react to them and make sure that the solution that we're building together actually addresses those practical issues on the ground. I think that AI has become ubiquitous. Everybody talks about it. Everybody knows what it's capable of achieving. But I think working with really good people who are willing to dig in and make sure that there is full alignment in the business objectives is something that is not present in all companies, but has been with the partnership that we've had with Upstage. And I think that's really important.
It's not always the innovation that changes things, it's innovation applied. And that's what we care about the most. As you mentioned, working with you to understand your business and how the technology can support you and exactly where it makes sense matters the most to us, because we don't want to just offer the technology and say it's AI and shove it into different businesses and different workflows where it doesn't make sense. It has to be helpful. And AI is a one-to-one conversation with each company that we work with. It's not one size fits all at all, and therefore we make sure to dedicate the time to get to know you and understand your goals and exactly how you want to use the technology. Otherwise, it just won't work if you just slap it on top of whatever system that you have. As an MGA and InsurTech, how important is it to not only adopt technology but also contribute to its advancement and development?
Yeah, I think with a lot of the things that we've been discussing, the areas of AI that you guys are innovating on and that we've explored ourselves, there is significant area of opportunity for us to be able to push the envelope. There are foundational models that are available to everyone, right? Anthropic has put out their models, OpenAI, Google has theirs, etc. And I think that all of that is really table stakes for most companies in terms of just embedding those models in the ways that they do things. But what is important is that we can leverage that base technology and refine it at the problems that are important for us to be able to solve, and to be able to think critically about where it makes the most sense to leverage. So I don't think that it's just purely leveraging models is the only task. I think we need to be able to think critically about how to use a foundational technology and build off of it to make things that don't exist today, that are proprietary and that can help us deliver a better quality experience, product, etc. to our clients.
And there are more things that we might not even know right now that need to be built on top of it. So if the fundamental workflow changes for a submission, for example, what other products and features are needed on top of that to support that workflow change and to support the underwriter? It's okay to not know, but it's important to keep an open mind.
Absolutely.
So we've talked a lot about Upstage in the underwriting process. What are other areas that Upstage can add value within your business?
Yeah, I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity in claims. Specifically, we have a lot of information that comes in anytime that any one of our clients experiences a claim. There are sources of information that are coming in, a myriad of documents and emails and information that we ingest on each one of these claims and then have to make decisions on. Oftentimes, sorting the information that is coming in as it relates to the allegations relative to this objective source of truth of the data that we know constitutes what actually happened is a challenge. And that's something that all claims professionals face, is reconciling those two worlds, what is being alleged, what we know to have actually happened based on the information we have available. And so I think leveraging AI, leveraging the efficient extraction of information, and then the organization and decisioning on it to be able to sort those things can help our claims teams be more efficient about how they go about the subsequent next steps in moving towards the resolution of those claims.
It sounds like there's also a legal component to this where we can help with the extraction of legal documents.
Yeah, legal documents have a lot of information that is structured. There's also a lot of information that's unstructured. And getting at all of that information, being able to understand what elements of that information can help us make decisions in subsequent next steps. As an example, being able to sort through when we do get a legal document in, who that legal document pertains to, what the content of that document is really getting at semantically, and then the implication that has on the next steps in a case is a part of what we presently work through. It's an area of the business that poses challenge in scaling. So I think the application of the technology in helping to sort those things will be helpful for us and important as we grow.
How long does it take to review legal documents?
I think that entirely matters on the complexity of the case. It could be anywhere from, let's say, 20 to 30 minutes for a simple document, all the way up to several hours for complex documents that have really involved subsequent decisioning and implications on that decisioning. So understanding the positioning of that document and where it falls within the broader context of a case is going to influence how much time we'd spend on it. But I think in broad strokes, there's many hours that are spent in reviewing these kinds of documents on each and every case that we have.
Is there any benefit in reviewing historical legal cases to help you in your underwriting process or other parts of the business?
Of course. I mean, the establishment of case law and how it bears impact on the prospective exposure on an individual case is going to matter. I think that there's many similarities that we see in the cases that are filed that would help guide that process. One of the important things that all claims units need to do is to set reserves, which is to set the prospective value of a claim before it either settles or is adjudicated by the court, and looking to other similarly situated claims that have happened in the past as a means of more accurately assessing the value of a claim is for sure something that we go through, and something that I think almost all insurance companies on the planet that handle their claims go through as well.
How could automatically extracting the details of the claims and the case laws help review each claim? I
think matching or getting a better understanding for the similarities that exist between claims, not just in a general sense or an empirical sense, but what specific points of data are similar or different between the claim that we're handling in the present and claims that have been filed in the past will help us create a better cohort to be able to compare against. So if, say, for example, we're dealing with a particular situation with a particular set of facts, a particular set of allegations, we'd want to make sure that any comparison that we're making between that individual case and a cohort of others, that we're establishing that cohort in a way that is data-driven and that makes sense.
And it sounds like beyond the extraction piece, AI creating a narrative to help anyone make that decision would be very useful.
Yeah, I think being able to have a quick ability to compare the narrative of case A to other cases in the past and to draw inference on that is definitely something that happens today. It just happens manually. And that process is a combination of efforts between claims professionals that may be internal to insurance companies and external attorneys, defense attorneys, and legal experts that may be reviewing the case and drawing their own conclusions. So I think there's a multitude of perspectives that helps piece together that picture, but all of it can be that process, and the depth of analysis can be amplified with AI.
Kind of a personal interest question. So it sounds really good to create the narrative, for example, for a case, but every single lawyer or person reviewing has a certain structure and format that they would create their own narrative manually. How do you think, or what is the best way to get someone's expertise from their brain inside an AI model or an AI system in order to scale that narrative creation in just the right way that they want it done?
Well, I think that there's a tremendous amount of historical information on how the individual composes their thoughts within the legal realm, and that is case law. They're filing their cases, they're creating arguments that are published and in the public realm that basically constitute the ways in which they synthesize information, the way that they aggregate information and then create argumentation around that. So there's a lot of information there to help train and refine the way that models look at the composition of a narrative, but it is a unique and complex problem that I think is going to take some time to solve. There are legal technology companies out there like Harvey or others that have worked to establish decisioning and generative technology within the legal space. And I think it will take some time for that to advance. But irrespective, I think even in a scenario where you're not just generating the legal narrative with AI alone, it is helpful in guiding human decisioning, in guiding the human exploratory process for arriving at that final product. So for an attorney, even if they're not just copy-paste, taking something off of a generative model and incorporating it into their motions, I think being able to bounce ideas, query data, to be able to refine verbiage are things that would be helpful within the broader construct.
And I think it's important to make sure that all of the data within cases is extracted appropriately. Did you see that news story about, it was a lawyer submitted a motion and there was a case reference that never existed. It was a huge hallucination. But to make sure that you're referencing that corpus of data only and to prevent Gen AI from hallucinating, that's where I think a lot of the machine learning side comes in specifically to ensure that the generation of the narrative or the summary is really rooted in the set of documents, and that output has a citation for wherever that paragraph or that line item can be found.
Of course, and there are limitations to the technology in its present form. To your point, having guardrails in place to make sure that the reach of the technology is firmly within the bounds of what is compliant, what is relevant, what is useful, I think is really important as you implement, or as we think about implementing these kinds of technologies into day-to-day workflows.
Great, thank you.
Of course.